Eric Ebron, if you could stop scaring us like that, yeah, it would be great. It's the Hindsight 20 podcast. I'm your host, Jerry Mallory. I want to thank each and every one of you for listening. As always, a proud member of the Detroit Sports Podcasting Network. It's not just me. It's Doc and Jock. It's fantasy nerds. It's everything you want to hear. Tigers, the first lady of Detroit sports. It's all here. So check us out. Subscribe. iTunes, Podbay, you name it. You know what we're going to be talking about first and foremost on today's show. It's the scare. Eric Ebron with the Achilles. We don't even know 100%, what's wrong with him. I've checked Twitter more than I've ever done before. Even tried out one of these newfangled apps that a lot of you like to use. And so we'll be talking about Eric Ebron, the ins and outs, my initial reaction, calling out some of you fans for what I would call an overreaction, especially considering how some of you feel about this man. We'll talk about two winners from training camp so far, guys that they probably weren't going to make the roster, but now they're kind of forcing their will. They're putting it to where, this or that guy's ahead of me, supposedly on paper, but they're making their names known to where Bob Quinn and company are going to have a tough number of decisions to make. These two guys really fighting for a roster spot. And in fact, I'm not going to say they're the odds-on favorite to get in, but as the preseason games roll on and as they keep playing better and better, well, we'll have to wait and see just what these two guys can do. After the Ebron injury, you start thinking about depth. You start thinking about replacements. And so what I did was looked at the best options for some of the main positions, whether it's within the organization, whether it's outside. And yes, of course, we'll talk about, tight end, some of the solutions. And I've got so desperate that we're going to end the show with a little bit of John Madden football, okay? Everyone loves the video game Madden. And in Madden, a guy like Ebron gets hurt, there's a couple of solutions you can do. We'll talk about some of those Madden solutions so crazy that they couldn't possibly happen in real NFL, right? You never know. So, of course, Ebron, we're going to open up the show talking about him. Man, what a scare that was. Actually found out about it on one of the group me chats that I'm on. Someone said that, Ebron carted off the field. I had to work Saturday. It's not my normal work day. So, I'm checking messages and I see that. And that was the fear, that it was a ruptured Achilles. And it's like, dude, are you serious? Like a ruptured Achilles. We were just talking about on the last show, those nightmares, okay? We're talking about on the last show some of those scenarios that, we would just be scared if they happen. We'd be shook. I talked about Marvin Jones and I talked about, Matthew Stafford. And if those guys were to go down, those deep, dark thoughts, sometimes they creep into your head.
Darkness, my old friend.
Exactly. And so, I'm driving home Saturday and
hello, darkness, my old friend.
Eric Ebron out probably for the year with an Achilles. It's like, dude, my initial reaction was frustration. It was anger. I may have taken it out on my car on the ride home. I had a thing of water that maybe I punched or, threw, and a little water went here and there. Maybe my McDonald's bag, I balled up a little bit and tossed, I was upset. And so definitely when you hear something like this, my first reaction was an overreaction. Man, this offense, we've been trying so hard. You bring in Bowden and this and that. And now, before the season starts, before even one preseason game, all that we've been working for out the window because of Eric Ebron. Now, listen, I'm one of the bigger supporters of Ebron. All right. I know the issues, and my stance has been this. I don't care about Aaron Donald. I don't care about Odell Beckham. I don't care about, Zach Martin. Those guys aren't on the team, all right? Whether they should have been drafted or not doesn't really matter. Yeah, we missed on some really good guys. What about the guy that's on our team right now? It's Eric Ebron. And I think people tie in who we could have had with his actual play on the field. And so he sucks. He's a bust. He's worthless. Those things aren't true. I'm one of the biggest supporters of Ebron, all right? I don't focus on Aaron Donald and those guys as much as many others. And so even with that being said, I feel like my reaction.
With the 13th pick
in
the 2014 NFL Draft.
Oh, no. You guys remember that drop? The old Aaron Donald drop from earlier in the year, podcast of many months ago. Anyways, I'm not the biggest Eric Ebron hater. I'm actually one of his biggest supporters. But my reaction was even an overreaction, in my opinion. I mean, you lose him. He's a cog. He's definitely going to be one of the top targets. But one guy, shouldn't derail an offense because it happens on every team. Now, it can. You talk about Adrian Peterson, maybe when we were super Calvin Johnson dependent, or a quarterback, but one guy should not derail everything you build up for. So even if we're without Eric Ebron for an extended amount of time, we still have a number of weapons, okay? You still have your Golden Tates and your Reddicks and your Abdullahs and your Bowdens and your Marvin Jones. To me, it just means more 4 and 3 receiver sets. Guys will have to step up. Anquan Bolden really utilizing that slot a whole lot more because I feel like him and Ebron both will be operating some of those mismatches in the slot. And so that's my initial reaction, was to overreact. And now that I've settled down, especially, reports are coming out now that maybe it's a minor injury. He really dodged a bullet. He's going to be okay. It was just, whatever. We don't know yet, okay? I can go on Twitter right now. In fact, let's do it. Let's go to the land of Twitter, all right? I'm going to tap on my Twitter icon while I'm doing this show because, it's funny. Sometimes I've done this show and in the middle of it, things have just went completely the other way. I tell you what. So I'm on Twitter and no, I see nothing. Okay. There's nothing going on in terms of Ebron, no news about him. And so that's it. All right. We don't know, but the last time we checked, last time we talked, and we had some substantial things, to say about Ebron was that maybe it was an overreaction. Okay. That maybe it was not as bad an injury as we thought. For the time being, it looks like it is not a torn Achilles, but we don't know yet. So we have to wait and see. But I want to call a few people out. It's the typical negative Lions naysayers and their reaction to Eric Ebron. Some of them come out and you go to Twitter or different things and all the Lions are cursed. There goes any chance of them having a good offense. Oh, Matthew Stafford's going to suck now. But the thing that kills me is these are some of the same people that say Ebron is horrible. It can't be both ways. If he's horrible, if he sucks, if he's the worst tight end ever, how can losing him make the team that much worse? It can't, right? But it's the same as the cheerleaders, where you had guys that, we don't have cheerleaders. We're one of the few teams that don't have cheerleaders. It's stupid. Why don't? No, that's just the old forward ways. Then we get cheerleaders, and why don't cheerleaders? Who cares? They need to focus on winning. We don't care about cheerleaders. Some people will complain no matter what, especially about the Lions. Yes, the Lions have given us plenty of ammo, plenty of reason to complain. Some people are just not happy. Okay, on one end, Eric Ebron's the worst player ever, but then he gets hurt and the offense is doomed. It can't be both ways, but some people like it like that. And so that's just my initial spiel on it with Eric Ebron. And then some things start to come out about him and the injury that was quite interesting. So what I'm referring to is this whole Snapchat deal. Now, I'm on Snapchat. I've got to thank my wife. She's the one that keeps me relevant, all right? Keeps me young. She's 5 years younger than me. I'm 31. She's 26. But she's always up on the latest and greatest whatever, especially when it comes to apps. I'm pretty sure she was the one that introduced me to Instagram. And she certainly was the one that introduced me to Snapchat, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm on Snapchat, but I very rarely use it. I go on it sometime. But the word on the street was Eric Ebron was on Snapchat dancing after the injury. Now, first off, he was in a car. He was moving his upper body. He was sitting down. So for one, I wouldn't call that dancing. If that's what you want to call dancing, then no. You could have a torn Achilles and do that. Now, with what I look at when I see that is his spirits. His spirits seem to be very high. The fact that you are dancing and smiling, to me, in a car, physically you could do that with an injury in your lower body. But I don't think you'd be doing that because of your spirits would be down. Snapchat's big though, and Darius Slay, very popular on Snapchat. Hassan Whiteside even announcing what team he was going to sign with, all on Snapchat. I'm getting older, okay? And I know that. I'm okay with it too. I actually like it. I think it adds experience and it adds, it's just a different phase in your life. And I guess I don't understand Snapchat fully. I know oftentimes if I need to know how to use features on new things, I will refer to my wife, I will refer to my niece, and it is what it is. I tried to follow Eric Ebron on Snapchat and was unsuccessful. I don't know how it works. I typed in his name. I figured it would pop up and it didn't. And so while I want to get updates on Eric Ebron, or maybe I want to get updates on, Darius Slay and what's going on, I really don't know. I don't know how to. I'm just getting a little bit older. But then it was him spotted somewhere on a basketball court standing. I think it was a scare, not a tear, not a rupture, and he will be back. Give him the preseason off, and maybe he'll be ready by week 1. But we won't know until probably this week. The severity of the injuries, have to wait and see. We'll be talking about Ebron a little bit later. We'll get back to him. But right now, let's talk about 2 of the winners from training camp. These 2 guys, their odds of making the team are still long. It's Jay Lee, wide receiver rookie out of Baylor, and then Kyrie Thornton, defensive tackle. Their odds are long because of the people in front of them. Now, the Lions will go with 4 receivers, okay? Or 5, but definitely at least 4. And I think the top 4 are locked in, and there's really no room. You've got Golden Tate, you've got Marvin Jones, you've got TJ Jones, you've got Anquan Bolden. I'm pretty confident that those 4 will make the team. For that fifth spot, you've got guys that will be battling for it. Jay Lee's one of them. Corey Fuller, I think, because of injury and just never really been that guy that we hoped him to be. I don't think he has a chance. You have the 2 Andres, Roberts and Caldwell. You have Jace Billingsley, Quinshaw Davis. There's a lot of guys vying for that spot. And just because of the numbers game and Jay Lee being a rookie and being really raw, they may want to go the veteran route. Guy like Curley or Roberts, maybe they can do more in special teams. But Jay Lee's been balling. All right, you go to training camp reports. I believe it was Alex Reno, one of my partners over there at Pride Detroit, got a look at him, said he caught everything thrown his way. He looked crisp. He looked sharp. I've always been a fan of Jay Lee, and he's playing good. And you don't want to overreact because it's training camp, but I'm really looking forward to seeing how he works in the preseason. I think him and Dan Orlovsky will get a lot of a run. Stafford will be bubble wrapped, all right? And Orlovsky, being the backup, is going to play quite a bit, as well as Rudock. I want to see what Jay Lee can do against some other teams with some full contact, albeit preseason. He's going to be fighting. And if we're just going by training camp, he'd be one of the receivers to make it. But as we know, there's a lot more story to be written. But so far, so good. Keep your eye on the big fella out of Baylor. Kyrie Thornton's another one. Someone that, you look at him, he's probably an afterthought because defensive tackle is stacked, all right? You've got Ashawn Robinson, big acquisition rookie. Teron Walker coming back from injury. Haloti Ngata, Karan Reed, Stephon Charles. And so how many defensive tackles is this team going to carry? You have to ask yourself. And so, Robinson, Ngata, Walker, those guys are making the team, all right? Karan Reed, I'll say the same thing. If they go with 5 guys, man, I didn't think Stephon Charles would ever be on the bubble, but you're hearing how he's been struggling in training camp. Kyrie Thornton really making this push. He's lost some weight. It's going to be close, man. There's going to be some difficult cuts. I think at the receiver position and that defensive tackle, you've acquired a number of guys. And as far as the bubble goes, it's going to be hard. I'm looking forward to the preseason, though. for a number of reasons, but I'm going to be keying in on two of those guys particularly, Kyrie Thornton, Jay Lee. I want to see what both of them can do, if the hype is going to be real. We started hearing hype about Zach Zenner early on, and he lived up to it in the preseason, rolled himself all the way to a roster spot come regular season. Unfortunately, the injuries hit him, and he wasn't able to play his rookie year, really. But these two guys, could it be another Zach Zenner story? We've seen these stories time and time again. Some have been successful, some have not been. But I'm looking forward to it. Those two individuals particularly, I'll be keeping my eye on. All right, guys, we'll be right back. When we return, we'll talk about those substitutions, okay? With the recent events and the injuries, you start looking who is available if this player or that player goes down. And so we'll take a realistic approach, and then we'll take the video game approach. How can we fix this Madden style? If Ebron's gone for a period of time, how can we fix this offense? Stay right here on the Hindsight 20 as we'll return with more football and Lions goodness. Jerry Mallory here for the Hindsight 20 podcast. It's simple. If you want your ad to be placed on this show, an up-and-coming podcast on the up-and-coming podcast network, leave us an email, hindsight20podcast@gmail.com. All right, we're back on the Hindsight 20. I want to thank you for sticking around for the last third, the last half, however you want to look at it, of the show. The preseason is on its way, man. This is like the calm before the storm. Because once the preseason hits, we'll be really, really able to look, in depth, in detail at some of the comings and goings of these guys, like your Jay Lees, like your Kyrie Thorntons. I mean, we know, what Stafford's going to be. All right. We have an idea of what Marvin Jones is going to be. All right. These guys we know about. However, the guys on the bubble, the guys that are, fighting for that's to me the enjoyable part of the preseason. And yes, I was one of the guys looking forward to, the Hall of Fame game just because it's football. Okay. It's action. It's guys getting hit. And we didn't get a chance to see it. But when it comes to my team, I like looking at the guys on the bubble. I like looking at the ones that are, close, fighting for a roster spot, because you get to see what they do against other competition. And with a guy like Zach Zenner, it can happen. You can, in fact, improve your situation and be a guy that's maybe not going to make it to on the bubble, to on the team, and you can just take off from there. Once you're on that 53-man, you never know when your name's going to get called. But after the Eric Ebron injury, I'm sure I'm not alone in thinking about replacements for him. That's without saying. But I'm sure I'm not alone when talking about just replacements in general. Who's available? If this guy or that guy goes down, don't want to be the doom and gloom guy, but the Ebron scares kind of got all of us in a doom or gloom type of mode. So let's go down the line, down the list. If a key member here or there gets hurt, kind of what's our options? And we'll start with Stafford. Plain and simple, Stafford goes down, the Lions go down, all right? Whatever you predict them to win this year, as low as 3, as high as 15, Stafford goes down and you just subtract a number of wins. You subtract 4 to 5 wins. That's right. If you picked him to win 3 games and Stafford gets hurt, you now predict him to win -2 games. I don't know how, but you will and you should. There really is no alternative if he goes down. We're screwed. We're in a horrible situation. We're in a tough spot, putting it mildly. What do? Well, Dan Orlovsky comes in, and he's your number one guy, but you need a backup, all right? I don't think Rudock is the answer. This is why a guy like Jimmy Clausen has been brought in. It's bleak because opposing defenses, they see Orlovsky with Clausen backing him up, they're going to be licking their chops, and I'm going to be looking at the 2017 NFL draft. I think running back is in-house because you've got Abdullah, then Reddick, then Ridley, then Zenner, okay, even Washington fighting for a spot. But if a guy goes down, I just think maybe a Washington guy, Dwayne, who I think he'll be a practice squad player, he would move up to the actual roster. All these guys, only have so many touches, only so many rushes. Guy goes down, that means Reddick is going to get more actual ball carries as opposed to receiving as much. So I think it's in-house. It's the same with the receiver position. one of those guys go down, everyone just moves up that chart. All right. Maybe Jay Lee doesn't make the team. He's at least going to make the practice squad, in my opinion. Same with Quinshaw Davis. Those guys just move up to the big leagues. And then you got guys, everyone's not going to make it. Curley, Jeremy Curley, Andre Roberts, Andre Caldwell, all of them might get cut. I'm going to say at least two of them. Well, they've been signed. They've been brought in. They're familiar. If a guy goes down and you're looking for the outside guy to bring in, it'd probably be one of those guys. There's not a ton out there in free agency. Offensive line, again, I think it's of depth where, Will Beatty's available. Yeah, you may look at him, but ultimately, those guys just move up their rankings. All right, Joe Dahl, I'm talking to you. Jeff Schwartz, I'm talking to you. Michael Ola, I'm talking to you. You guys have to move up in the rankings. Tight end, prayer, I think. If Eric Ebron goes down, that's the first thing we all do, okay? Quinshaw Davis, maybe you feed him some food and get him he's like 225, give him about 20 pounds and hope that he can do something. And then Owen Daniels is out there, but it's thin, man. We're in a tough spot. You hope Pettigrew gets healthy soon. Cole Wick, a lot of people talking about him. And he's someone I'm definitely going to be keying in on. I think he's a lock to make the roster because of the tight end position being thin and because of his play. At this point, he probably is going to be the starting tight end week 1 in the preseason. That's right, guys. Week 1 in the preseason. It's almost here. Football is so close, you got to love it. Moving on the defensive side of the ball, I think defensive end, there's a few guys you could look at. Croy Bierman, Mike Neal we brought in for a visit. And I still think he's someone that maybe, just maybe, after training camp and everything is over, he wants to slide in as a veteran on the team. The Lions is an option. So if we lose one of our guys, and I hate talking like this, but just naming the options out there, okay? Mike Neal is probably the first person that we call. The fact that we've brought him in, the fact that we've looked at him. Cornerback, I wouldn't be surprised if we still bring someone in. It's up to what Darren Walls does, okay? How he looks as a situational guy. If not, you still got Chris Culliver out there. That could be an option. In terms of safety, it's crowded right now. I told you guys this, all right? Not to toot my own horn, but I'm going to toot my own horn. Raphael Bush would be the best safety after Glover Quinn, and he'd be the starter. I know a lot of you like Miles Killebrew, and I do too, but to me, it was obvious. It's just a matter of him staying healthy, but he has been hurt. So, whether it's, Dante Whitner, the pickings are kind of slim, but that's kind of what's out there, i.e. not a lot. Whitner's getting kind of old, and I think his best days are behind him. And linebacker, more depth. And so there you have it. It's a reason why these guys are free agents. It's not a ton out here, okay? Guys get hurt, you build depth, you hope some of your rookies step up, and that's kind of the case with Eric Ebron. You look at Cole Wick and you say, man, please be this dream scenario. Be with Joe Fourier was a few years ago, but that's all you have, all right? The pickings are slim to say the least. Stay healthy, because if you don't, it could get a little rough. But no, seriously, we've been building depth on our team. And so injuries will happen. A guy or two, a couple marquee guys will get hurt. And when they do, hopefully in-house we have enough. If not, you kick the tires on some of these bums I just mentioned in free agency. All right, guys, when I'm having issues in the video game world, if a guy gets hurt, I don't worry, because in the case of good old John Madden, you can always fix your team. Let's fix the Lions Madden style. So here's the deal. You're sitting there and you're playing John Madden, regular season edition, and your tight end goes down. It hurts. I don't know what Eric Ebron is rated this year. I don't know any of the rankings or ratings. I know I'll be buying Madden day one. I'll be playing it, as I always do. But Ebron goes down, and what do? You don't fear. In the real world, you have to deal with real consequences. You have to deal with money, and your acquisitions are low and your options are low. Not in the world of Madden. Let's Maddenize, let's Maddenify this whole situation. The first thing you do is take Anquan Bolden and you change his position from wide receiver to tight end. It's simple in Madden. It works just like that. If a guy's a receiver, he's kind of big, you can change him to a tight end. Sometimes his rating even goes up. In this case, Bolden, let's say his rating's about an 80 or so. If he goes to tight end, he'll bump up to about an 84. So you've already replaced Ebron with another Ebron. Another thing you could do, move Theo Reddick to wide receiver. So you just put Bolden at tight end, so now you need a receiver. I used to do this with Reggie Bush all the time. He was like an 80 in terms of running back. But if you moved him a receiver, he jumped up to like 87. I don't know why. It's Madden. I'm pretty sure, yeah, he's a receiving running back, but I'm pretty sure he's better as a running back. Otherwise, he would probably be playing receiver. Doesn't matter. Throw logic out the window. It's Madden. So if Reddick's like a 78 running back, as much as he catches the ball up the backfield, he's probably like an 87, 89 as a receiver. So you make those two moves. You put Anquan Bolden at tight end, and then you put Theo Reddick at receiver. Booyah. You fixed your Eric Ebron problem. But I'm not done. There's some other things that we could do. There's some other options. There's a cool feature, all right? When it comes to Madden, a guy can retire and you can force him not to retire with the push of a button, with the click of a mouse. I don't know, people are even playing Madden on PC, but you can actually change a guy's decision. Or you can bring a guy back. You can bring them from the Hall of Fame. So I can go and grab, whoever, Charlie Sanders from the Legends team, but add a little realism to it. Let's block Calvin Megatron Johnson's retirement. That's right. We just Maddenified this whole situation, and Calvin is back with the Lions. You know how easy it is to play with the Lions when you had Calvin? You can just bomb a 50-yard Hail Mary. He catches it in stride, jumps over 4 people, touchdown every time. Well, that Calvin's back with the push of a button. Then there's the trades. I get first-round picks are valuable, but you can get whoever you want, literally, if you trade 1 or 2 first-round picks. The cool thing is you can get right back in the first round with ease when the draft comes around. It's what I like to do when I'm playing Madden sometimes, and I want a really good player. I'll give up a first-round pick or 2, and then when the draft comes around, I can easily get a first-round pick or 2 by giving up inferior players or by signing a big player and trading him. It's just that easy. I'm looking at you, Jimmy Graham. You've had some injuries. I know Gronk. I know he's on the cover this year. He's the tight end you want to have. I don't even think you can acquire Gronk for a couple of first-round picks. But Jimmy Graham, who's probably rated 90 or so, and heck, if he's on the field, his pre-existing injuries don't matter. 2 first-round picks, and you've got Jimmy Graham. And so now you have a roster with Calvin Johnson as a receiver, Marvin Jones, Golden Tate, Theo Reddick. Those are your 4 receivers. At tight end, you've got Jimmy Graham and Anquan Bolden. You don't even need Eric Ebron. But if you wanted him, you can push a couple of buttons and get him back from the injury. You can restart that game. You can quit without saving. In Madden, you can do whatever you want. If only it was that simple, guys. It's fun to play those games because also it's kind of like the only time I've seen the Lions win playoff games, much less win a Super Bowl. And yes, we know in real life, much harder to fix your team. But I think Eric Ebron will be okay. Listen, ladies, gentlemen, the preseason is on our way. We get to look at your Kyrie Thorntons and your Jay Lees, and we get to hope that player XYZ stays healthy when we return next week. Next Monday, playoff, I'm getting real excited. A preseason game will have been played. We will discuss all the comings and goings. We will look at who's moving up and down the roster bubble ladder. That and much more on the next show. I want to thank each and every one of you for listening. Until next time, as always, you can find me here on the Detroit Sports Podcast Network or on PriorDetroit.com or Twitter at Jerry Mallory NFL. Until then, though, I want to thank you once again for listening, and I am gone.